This is disc number 2.
I believe these drinks are ours. Cheers, Lee.
Cheers.
So, what did you make of the first act?
Opera is never my favorite, Bennett.
But the passion and the death, don't you find it captivating?
In my profession, I see enough of that already. Are you expecting someone? Only you keep on looking around.
No, not really.
You've got your eye on Miss Jemima Laidlaw, haven't you?
Quietly. Someone might hear you.
Oh, I'm afraid that's not the secret you think it is. Anyway, she's not here, is she?
It doesn't look like it.
Does that mean we can go?
You don't fancy seeing the next act, then?
Not as much as a cigar at my club.
Oh, people will think us Philistines if we leave halfway through.
I believe they got more of that brandy in. You know, the one you're partial to.
You make your point well. To your club it is, then.
Before we go, there is someone I should pay my respects to.
Who have you seen?
Over there in the corner.
What, that old woman?
She was a friend of my mother's. Her name is Millicent Castlewood.
I've never heard of her.
And then perhaps you've heard of her son, Robert.
Robert Castlewood? Oh, you don't mean the playwright?
The one and the same. Come, let me introduce you. Mrs. Castlewood, how are you faring?
Why, if it isn't young Jerem. I haven't seen you in ages.
Wasn't it at Covent Garden when Tosca was on?
Yes, and that was 3 years ago.
Was it really?
Lee is hardly what you'd call an opera enthusiast.
Obviously not.
So, how have the past 3 years treated you?
Not as well as you might think.
Really? I would have thought your family has fared remarkably well.
Your son is a success now, isn't he?
Yes, but dealing with his fame hasn't always been easy.
It's brought unwanted attention, then.
He married a little over 2 years ago.
And you don't get on with your daughter-in-law?
And it wasn't just because she took Robert away from me.
Oh?
It may sound hard to believe, but it was like she put a spell on him.
Can't you speak to her about it?
No, she died some months ago.
Then isn't it time to patch things up with your son?
Believe me, there's nothing I'd like more. Only she won't let me.
I thought you said she was dead.
Even that hasn't stopped her from plaguing us.
How so?
He says she comes to him.
What, from beyond the grave?
Yes, she still speaks to him even though she's been dead for over 6 months.
In science, one reasons by analogy. So when mankind is confronted by experiences entirely beyond his understanding, it takes an individual with intelligence and bravery in equal measure to push back the boundaries of the unknown. In London, in 1900, the solution to supernatural occurrences were investigated by a man who was famous for his dealings with the unknown and the worlds of the dead. Jerem Lee, Ghost Hunter. Jerem Lee, Ghost Hunter, starring Jerry Robbins as Jerem Lee and Joe Caliendo Jr. as Arthur Bennett. Tonight's episode, The Call of the Dead.
My name is Arthur Bennett, colleague of that renowned investigator of the strange and supernatural, Jerem Lee. During my time with Lee, I had heard many people say curious things, but when Mrs. Castlewood said her son was still communicating with his dead wife, even I was surprised. Before we parted that night, she asked if we might come and see her, so she could explain what she meant. Less than 24 hours later, we stood outside her front door, at number 11, Regent Mews. I always said it was advantageous to go to the opera.
Beneficial is what you said.
It got you a new case to investigate, didn't it?
If I ever have to resort to going to the opera to pick up work, I'll know it's time to call it a day.
Yes, sir?
Is the lady of the house in?
I'll just go and see, sir.
That's all right, Jones. I'll see to them. And bring some tea into the drawing room, won't you?
Yes, madam.
Do come in, Jerem, and you too, Mr. Bennett. It's this way.
It's a magnificent place you have here.
Robert bought it for me after his first success. We were on better terms then. Please do take a seat. And thank you for coming to see me.
You made quite a remarkable statement last night. We were intrigued, weren't we, Bennett?
Indeed we were.
Well, where do you want me to begin?
You said you were once very close to Robert. Perhaps you should start there.
What most people don't realize is that success didn't come easily for him. In fact, it took him many years of hard work before Robert had his first triumph. During those years, I supported him entirely, and I gave him all the encouragement a parent could. Yet when he finally received the acclaim he so richly deserved, I almost wished he hadn't.
But why?
He went from being an unknown to being called a genius, all in less than a month. He suddenly became someone to be seen with, if you get my meaning.
Yes, we do.
And then came the parties. It felt like there was one every night.
You didn't enjoy them?
No, but Robert did. He seemed thoroughly captivated by them.
Shall I get another glass of champagne?
Oh, Robert, must we stay?
Why don't you try and relax and enjoy yourself?
Don't you find it boring?
Boring? How can it be boring when there are so many interesting people here?
You may find them interesting. I find them shallow.
Well, you'd better get used to it. They're an important part of my life now.
But why?
Don't you realize I have to be seen at parties like this now?
I don't see why. Surely it's your writing that counts.
That's where you're wrong. Diana says it's who you know that's important.
And just who is this Diana?
Diana Howard. You must have heard of her.
I can't say that I have.
She's to be the leading lady in my next play.
But you haven't even started it yet.
Diana says I'm to write the part for her.
Does she indeed?
And here she is now. Diana, over here.
Robert, there you are.
Robert, hadn't you better introduce us?
Of course. Diana, this is my mother.
Your mother? Surely you're not bringing her along for the rest of the night?
Well,
Robert, can't you take me home? I'm feeling rather tired.
I'm hardly surprised. It must be late for a woman of your age.
Robert, I want you to take me home. Immediately.
You really must meet Lord Newland. He's terribly interested in hearing about you.
Well, I really should see to Mother.
You know he's awfully keen on supporting playwrights. He could be the backer we've been looking for.
Really? I'm sorry, Mother. I should go.
Yes, Mrs. Castlewood, we really must go.
In that moment, I knew I'd lost him.
Isn't it natural for a child to step out of their parent's shadow?
I'm not some bitter old woman. I always hoped to see Robert settle down and marry.
Just not to her.
No, not to a woman like that. I had to suffer for months while she slyly pushed me out.
Didn't Robert step in?
Oh, she was far too clever for that. She made him feel like I was holding him back.
And then they married.
Yes, it was shortly after that when the news came she'd been badly injured in a riding accident. Oh, how my heart sang. Is it right to take pleasure from someone else's pain?
No, but understandable, perhaps.
I went to see her, you know.
You saw her before she died?
Yes, she spoke to me on her deathbed. Oh, I'll never forget it. Even though she was weak, she remained as defiant as ever. Diana, dear, it's me, Robert's mother.
Come to pay your last respects, have you?
Diana, I know we've had our ups and downs, but I never wanted it to end like this.
Don't lie to me.
Very well, I won't. After all the damage you've done, I'll be glad when you're gone.
You think you've won, don't you? You think you've got him back. Well, you won't have him. No one else will.
Whatever do you mean?
I love him. And I want no one else to have him. Do you hear me? No one. Not even you, his mother.
Of course, I thought little of it at the time.
But her premonition came true.
Only a month later, I met up with Robert in town. I thought he'd still be in mourning.
Wasn't he?
No, he was full of excitement that day.
Ah, there you are.
Oh, sorry I'm late.
Oh, don't worry about that.
Well, I must say you're looking better than I'd expected.
Because of Diana?
Well, yes.
I've got something to tell you.
What is it?
I've spoken to her.
Who, dear?
Who do you think? Diana, of course.
But, Robert, she's dead.
Yes, I know that.
What's happened?
I got talking to one of the actors down at the theatre. He suggested I go to a medium.
Oh, Robert.
You needn't look at me like that. I know you think they're a bunch of charlatans.
They make money by exploiting the vulnerable.
Well, not this one. I really spoke to her. I'm sure of it.
How can you be so certain?
She said things to me. Things which only Diana could have known.
Such as?
About our honeymoon in Scotland. How I slipped and fell in the stream. Now tell me, who else could have known about that?
But Robert, you told that story to all your friends when you came back.
She even called me by my pet name, Robbie.
Robert, listen to me. However much we want them, such things can't happen.
How can I expect you to understand? You never liked her anyway.
Oh, Robert, let's not argue.
No, perhaps you're right.
Are you going to see this medium again?
You might as well know. I mean to continue contact with Diana as often as possible, no matter what you think.
And he's convinced it really is his wife.
Nothing I can say will dissuade him.
Lee, couldn't he be telling the truth? I mean, who's to say she hasn't returned?
There are precious few genuine mediums in my experience. Most of them are table rappers after an easy shilling.
Then you'll help me?
I am prepared to investigate the problem, but I must make it clear from the outset. I conduct all my inquiries with an open mind.
I understand, and I am quite prepared to give you a free hand.
Very well. I accept the case.
Then I'll arrange for you to see Robert immediately.
No. If your son knows you've contacted me, we may never learn the truth. We must arrange to meet him on his own ground. That way he'll trust us more.
Lee, we've come here 3 nights in a row, and there's still no sign of him.
Patience, Bennett.
If I have to see this play one more time...
Now you know how I feel about that opera of yours.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes?
You've asked me to let you know if Mr. Castlewood has arrived.
You've seen him?
He's out back with the cast.
Can you give him my card? Tell him we wish to congratulate him on his play.
Righto, Governor. I'll be back in a tick.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Castlewood. We were greatly struck by the play tonight, weren't we, Bennett?
It's very kind of you to say so.
We've seen it several times now.
Indeed, we have.
And each time seems to add more depth to the characters.
You're too kind, Mr.
Jerem Lee.
You're a ghost hunter, aren't you?
My card says psychical detective.
Then you take your profession seriously.
Naturally.
Good. Because I was thinking about contacting you.
Oh?
Do you believe in life after death?
We have open minds on the subject, don't we, Bennett?
Some of the things we've seen would make anyone believe in the supernatural.
Then you believe souls who've passed over can communicate with us?
In principle, yes. But there remains a question of proof.
But I have the evidence already.
You do?
Through a medium. I've recently made contact with my dead wife.
All the mediums I've ever met were unmitigated frauds.
Well, not in this case.
Are you certain?
I'm beyond all doubt. If you don't believe me, why don't you come and see Miss Jessica Quinn?
Then we'd be delighted, wouldn't we, Bennett?
Indeed, we would. But do you think she'd agree to our presence? Lee is not without reputation.
If I vouch for you, we should be all right.
And you agree to do this?
As long as you come with a truly open mind.
My mind is always open. As long as you allow me to act as a scientist.
And that means?
That I must be allowed to explore all natural explanations before I am asked to accept any abnatural ones.
Very well, Mr. Lee. I agree to your terms.
Is this the place?
Yes, this is Miss Quinn's. But before we go in, there's something I should like to say.
Well, what is it?
I have visited her several times now, and I have come to accept the conditions, well, they're not always favorable.
You mean we may not see anything?
It is possible, so I ask you both not to expect too much from this first sitting.
Robert, there you are.
These are the gentlemen I told you about.
Do come in, won't you? Everything is prepared in the room on your left.
I hope you don't mind us in participating like this.
I welcome any enquiries, especially those of a scientific nature.
That is why we're here, isn't it, Lee?
Yes, indeed.
Then may I ask something from you in return?
Go on.
If I can successfully prove my ability as a medium, are you prepared to bear witness to the fact?
If you can provide us with definite proof, I will be the first to confirm your powers.
Do you wish to examine the room before we start?
No, that won't be necessary.
Are you certain?
Quite sure. Although I may ask to conduct a search after the seance.
But, of course, please do take a seat.
How is the seance conducted?
Do you think I knock on the table 3 times and ask politely to speak to the spirits?
Well, do you?
No, I merely blow out the candle.
And then what?
Then we wait.
For what?
For the spirits to come.
Sometimes it takes minutes, and sometimes we sit for hours.
Just waiting?
Just waiting.
I had no idea it could take so long.
Now, is everybody ready?
Quite ready, Miss Quinn.
Good, then we can begin.
Lee, can you smell something?
Rose petals.
It's her.
Your wife?
Yes, that was her favorite scent.
Miss Quinn, do you smell it too? Miss Quinn?
Robert, are you there?
Yes, my love.
Robert, who are these people?
They're my friends.
They are no friends. They are enemies.
Diana, you're mistaken.
They have been sent here by your mother. She wishes to end our love.
Lee, is this true?
Tell him.
It's true we've been engaged by your mother, but we're under no obligation to interfere.
What does that mean?
Aside from reporting to her, we remain free to do as we see fit.
I don't believe them. They are her spies. They want to sever this link between us.
Nothing will stop me coming to speak to you, Diana.
My link to this world. It grows stronger every time we talk. Soon we won't need a medium. Soon I will be with you all the time.
Diana? Diana! She's gone.
Miss Quinn, are you all right?
Quite all right, thank you, but... Oh, I do not think we'll receive any more messages tonight. You may go now, gentlemen. I must rest a while.
And that's what happened.
And this Miss Quinn knew I sent you?
Is there any way she could have found out?
No, I don't think so.
You're certain you told no one?
No, definitely not. You know I had hoped you'd be able to expose her as a fraud.
That may not be possible.
You're not suggesting that she really can contact Diana?
I admit it does sound fanciful.
Well, I don't believe it. She must have guessed somehow.
You were there too, Bennett. Can you offer any natural explanation to what we saw?
No, I can't say I can.
I can't just leave Robert at the mercy of this woman.
Then we must try and find a different solution.
What do you have in mind?
We need to consider the motives of this woman Quinn.
Do you think she could be paid off?
It's a possibility.
Then please go and see her. Find out what she wants.
As you wish.
And don't forget, I'm relying on you to protect Robert.
Miss Quinn seems quite the enigma, doesn't she?
And yet I'm sure I've seen her before. Pass me my book of newspaper cuttings, won't you?
Which one?
I've catalogued all the mediums with clairvoyants and psychics I've met and the ones on the left there.
Here you are.
Better take a volume each.
What am I looking for?
I'm not sure. A picture, a name, anything. Here's Madame Avery. She claimed she could produce ectoplasm. Of course, it was nothing but cheesecloth. And here's Colonel Harrington, of course. He wasn't a colonel at all.
Lee, I think I found her.
Show me. Alfred Wilson. I don't see...
There, in the background.
Yes, of course. Bessie Smith. I knew I'd seen her before.
Was she his assistant?
Yes, and very accomplished she was, too.
This man, Wilson, was he a genuine medium?
No, he was an absolute fraud.
And you think she's using some of his old tricks?
I think another visit to Miss Quinn is in order, don't you? I hope you don't mind us calling on you unannounced.
Unannounced, yes, but hardly unexpected.
You knew we'd be coming in advance?
I didn't find out psychically, if that's what you're thinking. I merely anticipated it.
Did you anticipate us finding out about your past?
What do you mean?
That you were once called Bessie Smith.
You narrowly escaped a prison sentence when Wilson was arrested, didn't you?
Have you told Robert about this?
No, but we could.
It would do you no good. Robert has an absolute belief in my powers.
His mother is concerned about his welfare.
So?
She's willing to pay you to leave him alone.
You've come here to pay me off?
Well?
No, Mr. Lee, I won't give it up.
We'll see you get your blood money if you leave him in peace. What more do you want?
Oh, I'll admit I spent most of my life as a fraud, But this is different.
In what way?
This time I'm not faking.
You're asking us to believe that you really can contact the dead?
Not the dead. Only Diana Castlewood.
What happened exactly?
I have a friend in the theatre. He's a good source of clients for me.
And when Diana Castlewood died, he sent Robert your way?
At the first sitting, nothing much happened. I gave him the usual patter and told him his wife was happy where she is.
Go on.
He seemed pleased and wanted to come back, but that second sitting was different somehow.
How exactly?
I could feel him willing her to come with such intensity. It was then I began to sense a presence in the room. It was Diana. She wanted to take over my body.
And you let her?
I couldn't stop her. Then suddenly I heard her voice coming from my lips. Can you imagine how I felt? It was completely unexpected.
If all this is true, don't you see you're in the gravest danger?
You can't threaten me, Mr. Lee. I won't give it up, whatever you say. This is far too precious.
And I've made some alteration to the final scene. Pass them amongst the cast, won't you?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Castlewood, may I have a moment of your time?
If you must.
We've spoken to Miss Quinn.
Well, if you're here to tell me she's a swindler, I won't believe you. She's told me things only Diana could know.
No, that's not why I came.
Then why are you here?
You must give it up, Mr. Castlewood. What you're doing isn't safe.
There's nothing you can say to stop me. And if I hear of you pestering her again, I'll inform the authorities.
I'll agree to leave you alone. I'll even speak to your mother on your behalf. But you must promise me something first.
Well, what is it?
I want you to read this piece of paper.
And?
If this ever happens, just once, I want you to promise me you will cease your association with Miss Quinn immediately. Well?
Oh, very well.
And you give me your word?
I've said so, haven't I?
Then I'll bid you good day.
That was superb, don't you think?
Really, Bennett.
And the power of Claudette Montou's voice, simply breathtaking. And when she hits the high note...
She sounds like she's trapped her fingers in a door.
Lee, you really are a Philistine at times. I've half a mind never to take you to the opera again.
Let's discuss it over dinner at Maxwell's. At least that's something we can both enjoy.
That's the first sensible thing you've said all evening.
I thought it was you.
Well, hello, Mrs. Castlewood.
I just wanted to thank the pair of you.
You've smoothed things over with your son, then?
Why, yes. Robert is his old self again.
And he's no longer trying to contact his wife?
No. And it's all thanks to you.
It is?
Why, yes, of course. About 2 weeks after I engaged you, he lost all interest in Miss Quinn. And he said it was all because of a promise he made to you.
It's good to hear.
Well, I must be going now. You must come and pay us a visit sometime.
What is she talking about? Lee, do you know anything about this promise she mentioned?
I went to see Robert Castlewood on my own. I made him agree to certain terms.
Which were?
Can't you guess?
Well, no.
You remember that Jessica Quinn said she couldn't stop Diana taking over her body when she appeared?
Yes.
To allow that to take place in a seance is one thing. But what if it happened elsewhere?
You mean when they weren't in a seance?
If Diana Castlewood ever got to a position where she could take over Quinn's mind at will, the results could be disastrous.
So what did Robert Castlewood promise?
If Diana ever spoke to him when they weren't in a seance, he must agree to never see Miss Quinn again.
You think that was what Diana Castlewood was after? To try and take over her mind entirely?
So she could continue her life with her husband. It's possible, isn't it?
You have been listening to Jerem Lee Ghost Hunter and tonight's episode The Call of the Dead, starring Jerry Robbins as Jerem Lee and Joe Caliendo Jr. as Arthur Bennett. Featured were Cynthia Pape as Millicent Castlewood, Gregory Gaines as Robert Castlewood, Lee Berry as Diana Castlewood, and Diane Capon as Miss Quinn. Jerem Lee Ghost Hunter was created and written by Gareth Tilley and produced by MJ Cogburn. The executive producer was Mark Vanderberg and the program was directed by Jerry Robbins, with music by Jeffrey Gage. For the Colonial Radio Theatre on the air, this is David Alt speaking.
All right, Wilson, where is he?
He's in there, Bennett.
Not the White Cockerel.
I'm afraid so.
But that place is barely better than a brothel.
I told you he was drunk.
Oh, if Dean Pritchard hears about this, he'll be booted out of college for certain.
Don't I know it? The dean only said last week, anyone caught out after midnight would be the high jump.
Yes, I'd forgotten about that.
Well, someone's got to go in there and get him.
So someone like me, you mean?
I'm already in trouble over that missing champagne.
But what if I'm seen going in?
No one will believe it.
And why not?
Because you're far too sensible, Bennett.
I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not. All right, Wilson. I'll go and fetch him. But just remember, you owe me one.
Hello, dearie. On your own, are you?
I'm looking for a friend.
Why don't you come and sit with me? I can be your friend if you like.
No thanks, madam.
You don't have to call me madam. Call me Bess. Everyone else does.
Well, thank you, Bess, but I really must try and find my friend.
Suit yourself. I'll be sitting here if you change your mind.
Yes, I'll try to remember that.
Yeah, you. After your pal.
Have you seen him?
Was he one like you?
What do you mean?
You know, a student.
Yes. Where is he?
Over there in the corner.
Where? I can't see him.
That ape on the floor.
Yes, that's Carter, all right. I'd better try and get him out of here.
And it'll take 2 men to carry him. Yeah, you grab one arm and I'll grab the other.
Thanks. It really is very good of you.
Always happy to help a friend, Mr. Bennett.
Who are you? And how do you know my name?
You don't recognize me then?
Lee, is that you?
Yes, and keep your voice down, old chap.
What the devil are you doing here? And why in heavens are you dressed like that?
I'm after a murderer.
Well, there are plenty of cutthroats in here.
No, I'm not just after any old thug.
Who are you after then?
Only the most wanted killer in the country.
And he's here? In this hole?
Not a he, Bennett. She. Let's get your friend outside, and then I'll tell you all about it.
In science, one reasons by analogy. So when mankind is confronted by experiences entirely beyond his understanding, it takes an individual with intelligence and bravery in equal measure to push back the boundaries of the unknown. In London, in 1900, the solution to supernatural occurrences were investigated by a man who was famous for his dealings with the unknown and the worlds of the dead. Jarom Lee, Ghost Hunter. Jarom Lee, Ghost Hunter, starring Jerry Robbins as Jarom Lee and Joe Caliendo Jr. as Arthur Bennett. Tonight's episode, The Sacrifice.
My name is Arthur Bennett, colleague of that renowned investigator of the strange and supernatural, Jarom Lee. It was a bitterly cold winter's night that saw us carry Leighton Carter out of the White Cockerel and deposit him safely into a carriage. It was only then that I had the opportunity to take a closer look at the old sailor beside me. It was hard to believe that under all that grease paint and fake hair was my friend, Jarom Lee.
You got light, mister?
Please, allow me. Oh, must you smoke that stuff? It reeks.
A sailor must smoke proper Navy tobacco.
Oh, sometimes I think you enjoy these disguises of yours a little too much.
I have to. One slip could cost me my life.
Yes. Well, what's this all about? You mentioned a murderer before.
You've read of the death of Sir Henry Redhill?
Oh, who hasn't? The papers have been full of it.
Well, what they didn't report is that I was there.
You saw it happen?
When Sir Henry left his club, I was sitting in a cafe opposite.
Then you must have seen the man who shot him.
Indeed I did.
You said you were after a killer.
Yes.
But I thought the assassin shot himself afterwards.
He did. Only I saw something that no one else did. He was being controlled, Bennett.
I don't follow.
You remember the Rudinsky case?
How could I forget?
When the soul leaves the body, the corpse takes on a distinctive look.
Yes, I remember. The strange pallor to the skin and the dead look to the eyes. You mean the assassin had no soul?
Yes, I'm sure of it.
But how could a corpse walk, let alone shoot someone?
Those who worship Juju have a word for these creatures.
Which is?
Zombie. The man was a zombie.
I've never heard that expression.
It refers to a soulless body reanimated to perform its master's wishes.
And you believe someone was controlling this zombie?
I spent the best part of a fortnight trying to track them down. My investigations led me here, to the White Cockerel in Oxford.
You said the murderer was a woman. Is that who you were speaking about?
My sources said she'd be here tonight.
And what do you know about her?
Very little. No one can give me the barest of descriptions. Even her name is whispered in hushed tones.
And what is it?
I only have an initial.
Which is?
She goes by the name of D.
D? That's hardly enlightening.
Quickly, Bennett, back into the shadows.
What is it?
The man opposite. He just left the cockerel.
Well?
Look at the way he's walking.
Yes, I'm like that after a few...
No, Bennett, he's not drunk. He's one of them.
You mean a zombie?
Follow him, Bennett. For heaven's sake, see that no one gets hurt.
What about you?
I'm going back inside the cockerel. I want to see if I can find out more about the murderess.
Why is it that Lee ends up in the warm when I'm out here in the cold? And why has my man, if he's still a man, been waiting outside the theater for at least an hour?
Ah, there you are, Bennett.
Dean Pritchett, what are you doing here?
I might ask you the same question.
Well,
Yes?
Well, I'm here waiting for a friend. He's in the theater, you see.
Been to a show, has he?
Yes, that's right.
Then perhaps you'd care to tell me the name of the play. Well?
He didn't say, sir.
No, I bet he didn't, and I'm beginning to think your friend doesn't exist. Do you have the time?
5 to midnight.
You know very well there's a curfew on after midnight.
But Dean Pritchett...
You've got 5 minutes to get back to the college, or I'll see you sent before the Chancellor.
But Dean, you don't understand.
What the devil?
There, outside the theater.
Bennett, where are you going? Master Bennett!
What happened?
It's my father. He's been shot.
Who did it?
It was him.
Wait here. I'll see if I can talk to him. You there! I said you there! Lee was right. This man is a zombie. Listen, I don't know your name, but I want to talk to you. Whoever you are, I want you to give me the gun. I said, give me the gun! No, you don't!
Visitor to see you.
Lee! Oh, thank goodness.
Well, Bennett, even for you this is a mess.
Can't you get me out?
Believe me, I'm doing my best.
But I've already told them I didn't shoot him. He shot himself.
I thought I told you to watch him.
I did.
And stop anyone getting hurt.
Well, I did until the dean turned up.
This dean of yours, is he a puffed-up little man?
You know him?
He's just finishing giving his statement now.
Let's hope he talks some sense into them.
Oh, I think he's doing his best.
Really?
In fact, he's giving the staff sergeant quite a dressing down.
Oh, I'll be lucky not to be locked up for life after he's finished.
Mr. Arthur Bennett,
Yes?
you're free to go.
Thank goodness for that.
Just see you keep out of trouble here.
Yes, Constable.
Do hurry up, Bennett. We've got an appointment with Lord Latimer in less than an hour.
Not the new Home Secretary.
Yes, he's engaging my services at the moment. Oh, and Bennett,
Yes?
we'd better leave by this door.
Must we? I feel like a criminal leaving through the back like this.
You're welcome to use the main entrance, only I thought it'd be easier for you this way.
Really?
The dean is still waiting for you out front, you know.
He is? Well, perhaps one door is as good as another.
I thought you'd see it that way.
That you, Lee? You'd better come in.
Allow me to introduce my associate, Mr. Arthur Bennett.
So, this is the man you wanted me to release?
As I said, Bennett's help is vital to my investigations. I couldn't leave Oxford without him.
Care for a brandy, Mr. Bennett?
Yes, I need something to keep out the cold.
And I need something to keep me awake. It's not often I'm kept up till 4 in the morning. You can help yourself, Lee.
Thank you.
Well, what do you have to report?
The shooting tonight was similar in every way to Sir Henry's.
Do you know who the victim was?
Bennett found out from his daughter she witnessed the shooting, poor girl.
It was General Maxwell Radley.
The former head of the Indian Army?
Yes, that's right.
Didn't he resign in rather a hurry?
Yes. I heard something about an affair.
And what about Dee? Did you find her?
No, Lord Latimer, she remains as elusive as ever.
Then we remain one step behind her.
Yes, and there's little we can do to protect the next victims.
You're expecting further deaths?
Yes, hasn't Lee explained?
I've barely had the chance.
Then I'd better give you our position. But it mustn't leave this room, you understand?
Perfectly.
You're aware of why I was offered this post?
You took over 3 weeks ago, didn't you, after Edward Langton died?
The fact is, his sudden death left certain activities incomplete.
Well, what exactly do you mean?
Here, you'd better read this note in his private files.
4 men conducting detailed assessment of our military strength and weaknesses, reporting end month. Was Sir Henry one of those men?
Indeed he was.
And General Radley?
We believe so.
Believe? But you don't know?
No, you can see yourself. No names are mentioned in the diary.
We imagine that Edward Langton approached each man independently. In fact, we only knew for certain that Sir Henry was involved after we searched his safe and found a detailed catalogue of our naval bases.
Do you know what the reviews were for?
We can only assume they are to help us make improvements in our armed services.
Yes, but why all the secrecy in the first place?
Don't you see? This information would be invaluable to our enemies. If they knew this information was being collected, they'd stop at nothing to get a hold of it.
Even murder?
Yes, even murder.
And without the other names, we are powerless to prevent any more deaths.
You know, it might not be entirely impossible to get those names.
What do you have in mind?
Bennett, you remember the case of Miss Quinn?
The medium, you mean?
A medium? Now, hold on a minute.
Just hear me out, Lord Latimer. You said yourself the only person who knows the names is dead.
Yes, but a medium.
She's no fraud. Wouldn't you agree, Bennett?
She could contact the dead, all right. But isn't there something you're forgetting?
Well?
Miss Quinn could only speak to one spirit, Robert Castlewood's dead wife, and even that presented difficulties.
And just what were those difficulties?
I had concerns that the spirit of his wife would try to take over Miss Quinn's mind. Still, if it's the only way we have to contact the dead...
Very well. Go and see this Miss Quinn of yours. Just make sure no one finds out about it.
Very well, your lordship.
And while you're at it, you might try and answer the biggest question of all.
Which is?
How the killer found out about those reports, and the names of the men who were drafting them.
Are you sure this is the house, Lee? It looks different from before.
This is the correct address. It's the facade that's been changed.
It points to new owners, doesn't it?
There's only one way to find out.
Good morning, gentlemen. May I be of assistance?
We are looking for Miss Jessica Quinn.
And you are?
Here's my card.
Very good, sir. The mistress has been expecting you.
Are you sure? We didn't contact her in advance.
Quite sure. If you make your way into the drawing room, the mistress will be with you presently.
The decor has been changed too, and all these bookshelves have been put up. Did Miss Quinn strike you as a heavy reader?
No, she didn't.
Strange, isn't it?
You're wondering how she could have changed so much in a matter of months?
Well, aren't you?
So you're finally here.
You don't seem very surprised to see us.
When I saw you at the White Copper last night, I knew it wouldn't be long before you called.
You were there also?
Surely you remember Bess?
Lee, it seems you weren't the only one in disguise.
And just what were you doing there, Miss Quinn?
Haven't you heard? I no longer use the name Quinn.
And pray, what do you call yourself?
You may call me Dee. It's short for Diana.
Robert Castlewood's wife was called Diana.
Yes, my spirit inhabits Jessica's body now.
And what's happened to Miss Quinn?
For the moment, she's gone.
You said you call yourself Dee. Was it you who turned those men into zombies?
Yes, I have that power.
Then you are responsible for the deaths.
Those men deserve to die.
But you had no right to kill them.
And you had no right to stop me speaking to my husband. But you did, didn't you?
We only sought to protect Miss Quinn.
You needn't have bothered. We have an understanding now.
You mean you've taken over her body?
Our souls exist on 2 planes now. This realm and the plane of the dead.
Then you're able to communicate with the dead.
If I wish to.
And when the Home Secretary died, you spoke to him.
That is my affair. And now, gentlemen, I really must be going.
Lee, aren't you going to stop her?
How can we, Bennett, when she has the power to turn men into walking zombies?
I'm glad you understand the futility of trying to stop me. It would be a shame to have to kill you too.
And that's what she said.
And she quite happily told you all this?
She believes we are powerless to stop her.
Does she now?
She's right, of course.
I've just received this telegram. It's bad news, I'm afraid. It's Admiral Phillips. He's been shot.
That makes the third death. Just one more left. Is there really nothing we can do to stop her?
I'll put a notice out immediately and have her arrested at once.
No, Lord Latimer, even if we knew where she was, with the power she has, she couldn't be contained for long.
Then what do you suggest? We can't just do nothing.
We must speak to Robert Castlewood.
Her husband?
Yes, perhaps he can help us.
You have no right to detain me like this.
I have every right when the nation's safety is at stake.
And just what do you mean by that?
You'd better explain, Lee.
Have you been in contact with Diana recently?
You mean my dead wife?
Yes, I do.
I swore on oath, didn't I? I told you I wouldn't try and speak to her.
And you've kept your word?
Yes, I have, but that hasn't been stopping her trying to contact me.
Oh? And when was this?
She came to see me about a month ago or so. It was quite out of the blue.
Robert, it's so good to see you.
Miss Quinn, this is an unexpected surprise.
Robert, please don't call me that.
Why ever not?
You know it's me. Diana, don't you?
Yes, I know, Diana.
Then why won't you hold me like you used to?
Can't you see this is wrong?
Oh, please don't say that.
I was wrong to try to contact you after you had died, and it was wrong for you to come back.
But I'm here now. We've a second chance.
No, Diana, we can't just carry on as if you haven't died.
Then despite all that's happened, we'll not be together?
We'll be together someday. Only we'll have to wait.
Wait. Till you die, you mean?
Yes. We must let nature take its course.
And you would live your life here, without me, knowing that one simple act would bring us together.
What you're asking, I don't know if I could.
But don't you see? We would be together then, forever and always.
And you haven't seen her since?
No, I've tried to put her out of my mind. It's not been easy, knowing you could be with a woman you love. I've often thought about what she said. One simple act, she called it.
You can't mean suicide.
It would be the easy way out.
Too easy, Castlewood. We must all take responsibility for our actions.
Well, what is it?
It's Sir James Arrington. He's been shot.
All right, you may go. That was the last one, gentlemen.
You still haven't told me what this is all about.
4 men were conducting separate reviews of our defenses. One by one, your wife has murdered them.
Diana, are you sure?
There's no doubt.
But why on earth would she do it?
We don't know for certain. What we do know is the information would be invaluable to our enemies.
And she has this information.
Diana transcends both the planes of the living and the dead.
So?
It means she can communicate with the dead. You understand the risk, don't you?
You think that she could talk to the men she's killed and get the information from them? No, Diana would never do such a thing.
She's a killer now, Mr. Castlewood. How well do you really know her now?
If only I could speak to her, I could prove you wrong.
There's no way of contacting her, I'm afraid. We've no idea where she is.
For all we know, she could be handing over state secrets as we speak.
Is the security of the country really at stake?
Make no mistake. If that information is leaked to our enemies, it could mean war.
Then you've helped me make up my mind.
Castlewood, what are you doing?
You still want me to speak to her?
No, Castlewood, not like this.
Don't you see? It's the only way.
No, we'll find another.
No, if I can't speak to her on this plane, then I must find her on the next. I'll do my best, gentlemen. You must have faith in both of us.
Dear God, what has he done?
Ah, there you are, Lee.
Morning, Bennett. Do have a seat.
So, what's this all about? Is it a new case?
I was about to ask you the same.
What do you mean? Your telegram said to meet you on the 10:15 to Liverpool.
Was it a telegram like this?
Why, yes, only mine was initialed JL.
And mine was signed Arthur Bennett.
Yes, but who sent them?
Ah, there you are. I'm glad you could come.
I think you owe us an explanation, Miss...
Perhaps if I remove my veil?
Diana Castlewood?
No, I'm not Diana. I'm my old self once again.
You mean Jessica Quinn?
Yes, Diana's left my body now.
What's this all about, Miss Quinn?
I thought I'd better speak to you both. Try and explain things a little.
Are you still in contact with Diana?
No, not now. After Robert died, she left this plane for good.
And she just gave you your body back to
I don't think you understand. She never took my body in the first place.
But we thought...
You both thought lots of things, didn't you?
Then you let her use your body?
For a period, yes.
But why?
Just before he died, the Home Secretary was contacted by one of our agents working abroad. He told him that 4 men had agreed to turn traitor and planned to hand British secrets over to a foreign power.
You mean Sir Henry Redhill, General Radley, and the others? Those men were traitors?
Yes, every last one of them.
Then the military assessments, they weren't to help Britain at all.
No, they were to be handed over straight to the enemy. Only the Home Secretary died before he could do anything about it.
Quite a predicament.
On the plane of the dead, he spoke to Diana's spirit. He told her she must return to here and try to stop them at all costs.
Even if it meant murdering them?
Those men were traitors. The sentence for betraying your country is death, isn't it?
But what about the men she used to do the killing? They also died.
Yes, but they weren't just ordinary men.
Really?
They were the foreign spies, here to receive their reports.
So they were foreign agents too?
Indeed, they were.
But still, murder is murder.
And what would you have her do?
Inform the authorities.
Those were some of the most respected men in the country. Ask yourself, who would they believe? Them, or a woman who thinks she can speak to the dead?
You're right, of course.
Besides, I've no wish to end my days in a sanatorium.
Then what do you want?
Me? I'm off to the continent. Somewhere Lord Latimer won't find me.
Do you think he knows the truth?
Oh, Lord Latimer knows all right.
How so?
They've uncovered a 5th traitor.
Really? And what's happened to him?
He's been arrested.
Is he to be tried?
Oh, no, there'll be no trial.
Why ever not?
You see, Mr. Bennet, there I can claim to have saved a life.
I don't understand.
The sentence for being a traitor is death, isn't it?
Well, yes.
They're worried if they execute him, the information he has wouldn't be lost forever. It would be made accessible to Diana Castlewood.
I hadn't thought of that.
No, but Lord Latimer has. He's thought about it very carefully indeed.
You know, I've always felt it's a capital mistake to try and contact the dead.
That's a curious thing for you to say.
Because I spend so much of my time studying the afterlife?
Yes.
But think, Bennett, if through my work people can become more accepting of death, perhaps they will learn to live their lives for the present.
You have been listening to Jarom Lee, Ghost Hunter, and tonight's episode, The Sacrifice, starring Jerry Robbins as Jarom Lee and Joe Caliendo Jr. as Arthur Bennett. Featured were Sam Donato as Lord Latimer, Gregory Gaines as Robert Castlewood, Lee Berry as Diana Castlewood and Bess, Diane Capon as Miss Quinn, and John Pease as Pritchard. Jarom Lee, Ghost Hunter was created and written by Gareth Tilley and produced by MJ Cogburn. The executive producer was Mark Vanderberg, and the program was directed by Jerry Robbins with music by Jeffrey Gage. For the Colonial Radio Theatre on the air, this is David Alt speaking.
This has been a production of the Colonial Radio Theatre on Brilliance Audio. For further information concerning this program or other Brilliance Audio titles, please call the following toll-free number, 1-800-222-3225, or visit our website at brillianceaudio.com. No part of this recording may be played for an audience or reproduced in any form. It may not be streamed, downloaded, broadcast, or copied without written permission. Address all inquiries to Brilliance Audio, P.O. Box 887, Grand Haven, Michigan, 49417.